Hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of the limited palette color study, and we're going to be doing a painting using only 2 colors, and our subject will be Rihanna from her famous music video work. And here's a look at the finished painting. In the last video, we did the drawing, we blocked in the darks and began the transition from light to shadow. That's where we left off. And we also talked about the color choices and the color strategy. So definitely review part 1. What I'm doing here is I'm going into the light. So I'm mixing my lights using a little bit of the phthalo blue, but mostly the yellow and the red to gray it down. So I do need it to start to gray because as we go into the lights, we lose saturation. We know we're coming out of the dark halftones, which will have the most saturation. That's what we did in the last step. And now I'm just brushing the lights on the light-facing planes, and try my best to make a decent edge. But I'll definitely address the edges later. But I definitely just want the color in this stage to be a little bit grayer and also a little bit warmer, basically shifting towards green. When you add that warm yellow to phthalo blue, it makes a nice green, and then that violet, the quin red or quin magenta we have really helps to gray it down. And also notice too, as I go down the bottom of the form, as we move away from the light, adding a little bit more blue, a little bit more red, that way it becomes more violet. So adding a subtle gradation even in the light. So that consistent methodology, that consistent principle applied will make the color feel real, or quote unquote real, even though this is a very stylized light. Okay, just like we did with the transition tones, now I'm going to soften the light. So that passage I just did, the light shapes, now I'm going back in to soften the edge using the same brush, just a soft sable brush. And also here, being, of course, very conscious of the tones, making sure that I keep consistent with my overall theme. More yellow, more greens at the top towards the light, more reds and violets as we go away from the light. And this basically just helps make the form feel more natural, help to round and model the form so it feels more 3D. Okay, next is the highlight. So for sure I'm going to start with a lot of white here, touch of the blue, and actually a lot of the yellow, because now I kind of want it to pop as much as possible. So that yellow was a strategic choice, and you could see how this highlight is popping. Now yes, it's brighter so it pops in value, but without the yellow, without the temperature shift, it wouldn't look as dramatic and as cool. And that's the beauty of color. When you control your temperature, and of course control the value, but control the temperature, you can get incredible effects like this. So this is one thing I love about painting, is that the ability to build and stack these highlights and use color to make the highlights even, they feel brighter, they feel like they're glowing. And of course start with the big shapes first, transition in color as I go down. Notice on her chest it's a little bit less green. And now when I do these smaller shapes, I just use a smaller brush to get the detail. But the main highlight I wanted was on the forehead, so that helped to establish the light source and give me the full value range that I need. Okay, now this is the most fun part of the painting. Now I get to add the reddish bounce light back into the shadow. So I was setting up the entire painting pretty much for this step, basically surrounding the painting with this nice field of cool, rich, dark blue violet. And here we're going to come and hit you with this warm, sexy violet now, reddish violet, a warm reddish violet. And notice that my first attempt at mixing the color, it didn't work. So again, that's just good painting with experience. You'll find ways to test your color, but you definitely want it to look good on the palette first. So now I'm pretty comfortable with the color that I mix. It's at a pretty good value, and it's a really nice temperature for what I need at this passage. I'm just going to go ahead and put it on all the big shapes. And I'm pretty much starting in the lower right quadrant, using a big flat brush first. Now I'm going to add a warmer variation. So this is the underplanes of her face there are receiving a lot of that rich red reflected light. So I definitely want that to show through. And I definitely want to suggest that there is an underplane there. That's what that step is. And then finally, once I establish the color variation, I'm just going to use a smaller brush and then work on the smaller shapes. So the smaller shapes like in the features, the eyes, or lips and nose there, which will also create beautiful color pops because it's surrounded by so much blue. The lights in her face will really help to make, will really pop now that the shadows have become a little bit redder and warmer. Okay, now we're about to complete the painting, and all I have to do is put in the background and some finishing touches. So here I am putting in the background. This is mostly the Quin Magenta, so I want to keep it nice and red, nice and warm. And this beautiful red complements the blue violet. And because there's so much of this Quin Magenta in the darks, it's in there subtly, it's mixed in there, it harmonizes so well. And of course, every field of color must have variation, so notice slightly lighter variation and slightly bluer and cooler variation just throughout, just kind of peppering it throughout to make sure that the color comes alive. Okay, here's a look at the finished painting. So to complete the painting, all I did was added a few bits of polish. I basically added oil painting technique, not a lot of color work. Most of the color work was done on camera here during the block-in and the rendering. And all I did was basically added a couple splatter techniques, something I like to do a lot. It just creates a variation from all the brushwork, and also added a little bit of thicker paint as well, just to make the surface quality. So nothing too fancy with the color, just to make it a more interesting oil painting. Okay, that's the end of this video. I want to thank you for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to sign up for the free newsletter at www.drawwithchris.com so you can stay updated on the latest courses and get access to more exclusive content. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a comment below or shoot me an email. Let me know what you want to see in the next newsletter. I'd definitely love to hear from you. And until then, get out there, keep drawing, and build up that mileage. Bye for now.